name's Dylan J. Walker, and this is going to be a series of tutorials on how to script and make your very own basic 2D platformer. In this one, we're going to be starting with movement, so let's get straight to it. When you first launch Unity, you're going to see something like this. You want to start off by going File, New Project, and then just naming your new project, whatever you would like. Whoops, I just got rid of the forward. This thing, that's called backslash. So I need to add a new backslash. But yeah, just rename it to anything you'd like. I'm just going to call mine platformer. And then you want to... we don't need any of them, but you might want to come down and change it from 3D to 2D, and then create. And then it's going to relaunch. And then you'll be in your scene. So now that it's reopened, you're in your new project, and in front of you, in this grey space, is your scene. So if we start by going up to File, Save Scene, and just save it to where it opens, we'll call it 1v1. And then it will show up here in your assets. Your assets are anything that you'll be using for your game. They need to be in here for your game to be able to use them. So we want to keep this area clean so we can get to everything we need when we need it. So we're going to do that with folders. So let's start by adding a folder for the scenes. You make a folder by simply right-clicking and going Create Folder. We also need one for the scripts. Oops. And we're also going to need one for prefabs. And we're also going to need one for textures. So now that we have them, we want to grab our scene, drag it into our scenes folder, and now in our scenes folder, there it is. So we go back to assets by coming down here and clicking on assets, and now we're going to want to start by creating a player and a ground for the player to move on. So we want to go up to Create Object, Create Other, Cube, and come down to your hierarchy. Your hierarchy is everything that is in your scene. Your scene is this grey window here, and it's your level. So we want to come down to the cube and rename it to player. And then we want to go back up to game object, create other, cube, move it underneath, then press R to scale and click on this red arm here and pull it to make the ground. And then again rename this cube to ground. So now we probably want to make our player a little bit more distinguishable. So if we come down to textures and right click, create, material, call it player, and we'll create another material and call it ground. Now we can grab this player one and click it and drag it to the player. And now if we click on the player, we can come over to the inspector, which has all of the information on the player. We can come down to its new shader, which we just applied, and click on the white box and set its color to whatever we would like. I'm going to go blue. Now we can repeat the same process for the ground, so click and drag, click on the ground, click on the white box, and then set the color you'd like. I'm going to go for a brown, and now we have a player and a ground. So if we click on our camera, and we'll just move it to the side so it's out of the way a little bit, and move it up a little bit, what you see in this blue box here called camera preview is what your game looks like. So if we go over to this window up here, game, that's what the camera sees. It's all dark at the moment because we don't have a light. So we want to come back to scene and go create game object, create other, directional light. A directional light is basically a sun, and you can place it anywhere in the world and it will have the same effect no matter where it is. The only thing that will change its effect are anything in this box here or its rotation. So if we now come back over to game, you can see everything's much brighter. But if we press play, nothing happens. The player just floats. So we want to get out of that and come back to scene and come to our player. Our player needs to have physics because we're going to be interacting with it and it needs to be able to move. So we want to come down to physics, 2D physics. Actually no, we're going to add 3D physics. Even though we're working in a 2D game, we're working with 3D assets, which means we want to use 3D physics because we're working in a 3D space. Because Unity is really a 3D engine. It has some 2D add-ons which are relatively new, but it's much more support for 3D, so I find it's easier to work with a 2D, 3D blend, and with that you can still make a project that seems completely 2D, but yeah, it's actually 3D. If you want to see that, have a look at the 2D platformer on my channel that I'm working on, because that's in completely a 3D space, but it appears to be completely 2D. But, so we're going to add a rigid body, and now we have gravity. So if we press play, and wait, we'll see our player is now sitting on the ground, which is nice. But you might also notice that I don't think our camera... Oh no, our camera is orthographic. That's good. Okay, so now what we want to do is come down to scripts and right click and create a new script, a new C# script. This script is going to be to move our player. Like I said, this episode's on moving the player. Obviously, I'm going to be setting it up as well because it's the first one. But yeah, so this one will be player move. It's important that your scripts don't have any gaps between the words, or they just won't work, basically. But now that we have this script, we just want to click on it and drag it to our player. And then if you click on your player, you can just double check it made it there, and it did. So come down to your assets and just double click on that script. This will launch the script up in MonoDevelop, which is the scripting suite that comes like standard with Unity. It's pretty slow, but it gets the job done. So whenever you make a script, you're going to see this, which just has the name, what kind of script it is, and a few other things, which I'll go over in a sec. Every time I open up a script, I like to come up to the bracket and just click before it and just enter, just to knock them all down. That way I know in between this bracket and this bracket is everything that my script is. Anything outside of these will not work. One sec, I just need some water. Anything between this one and this one is your start function. That will run the first time the script is run. So if you get shot, you're going to run a script that says you got shot. So the first time that happens, this will happen. But as long as that script's running, whatever's inside of here will happen. Unlike this, which only happens at the very beginning of the script's use. So for the player move, we're going to want to do everything in update because you want to be able to hold D and have the character constantly move. You don't want to push D and have the character move for a second and then that be it. So, or push D and have the character be locked in that direction. So what we want to do is add some variables to begin with, just so our script knows what we're talking about. And so we're going to need just a few. We want them to be public, which means that other scripts can see them, and also you can access them in the inspector, which I showed you before over here, which will be good for what we're doing, because that means we can adjust stuff as we feel fit. But yeah, so to begin with, we're going to want to add a public integer, which basically just means a whole number. So any number which is of a full values like 1, 5, 7, 57, 167, you know, a full number. You can't have point something. You can't do any of them. So we have a public integer called speed. I want speed to be equal to 5 for now. That can be adjusted later, like I said. We're also going to need a public integer for power. This will control our jump. We need our jumping to be a bit more powerful, so we'll go about 200 for that. And then we're also going to need to actually tell it how high we want to jump. So again, that's going to be a public int called, we'll call it jump height. Jump height can be equal to I don't know. 200 because that's what the other thing is. What am I thinking? We don't actually need power because we're working with jump height. I don't know what I was thinking there, sorry. So you can get rid of power, and then the last thing we need is another one, which is actually a bool this time. And a bool, unlike an int, which is a whole number, a bool is a true or false value. So a value between 1 or 0, 1 being true, 0 being false. So here we just want to have a bool called is falling, and is falling is equal to false. False. The reason we do this is because if we don't have some way of checking if our character is on the ground, then our character can jump continuously and basically fly. So we need to have some way of saying the character's landed on the ground, it can jump again, or if the character isn't on the ground, it can't jump because it has nothing to jump off. So now that we have all of our variables, we want to get started on the scripting. So we have no way of moving our character so far, but we already have some variables, which is good. This variable here is showing up as if it's not working. I'm not quite sure why. Because there's no L. Very obvious. Hopefully most of you saw that. But yeah, so we need to come down to update and make an if statement. An if statement's pretty simple. Basically, it's a if with brackets, and then 2 of these type of brackets under it, an open and a closed. And what it says is, if whatever's inside of here, do whatever inside of here. So if you do whatever's inside of here, make this happen. So if you click D, move right. That's what we're going to be starting with. So what we need is input dot get key, more brackets, key code dot D. What this means is if you input a key, which is key D, do whatever's down here. And down here, all we're going to do is say transform dot translate brackets vector3 dot right. And then, so now we're saying move right, but we need to say move right times our speed. But we don't just want times right by our speed, because if we're just timesing by our speed, that means this script will run as fast as it can on the computer it's on. The faster your computer is, the faster your play is going to be. So we want to add something which makes it so the script is locked to the clock, so it's running off seconds. So to do that, all you do is add time dot delta time, which is just a built-in function into Unity. And then after that, you just want to put a semicolon, finish the line. So now that we have that, let's just go over into our game for a second. And let's just click on our player. And then if we come down here, now you can see in the player move script, we have speed equals 5, jump height 20, is falling, false. So if we just go over to game for a second and turn off, oh no, we'll keep that on for now. If you just press play, now you can move left. As you can see, the character's moving a bit, it's like rocking back and forth a bit. That's because we need to come to our rigid body, go to constraints, and then freeze all of our rotation constraints. Now if we come back into the game, press play, now it's much smoother. So now that we've done that, we can move right, but we can't move left. So to move left, all we need to do is copy our previous little bit of code, paste it underneath, and change the D to an A, and then change the right to left. And now that we've done that, if we go back to our game, well, you need to save the script and then come back to the game, you'll see now we can move left and right. But we still have no way to jump, so now we need to add a jump. Like I said before, we added an is falling feature to make sure if the character was on the ground, but now we need to add something that's actually making that work. So we need to add a new void underneath our update. So here is our update, and like I said, inside these two brackets, here and here, is our update. So underneath that, we want to add a void, and it's going to be a void on collision stay. Then you just want to have two brackets at the end of that, and then we do our squiggly brackets underneath, and in here we just want to say is falling equals false. What this is doing is if you land on anything, you're not falling, so you can jump because you're obviously on the ground because you've collided with something. So now let's write the actual jump function. So if we come back up to where we have our transform translate left and go to the bracket under that and press space to make the space for us, we need to make another if input. So we can just copy this one. I do a lot of copy and pasting when I'm coding, and put it in here. We can change this one to W because we want it to be for jump. And then of course underneath there we need to put in our brackets, and then inside we want to add a jump function. So this time, instead of transform translate, which is just going to every frame move the character in whatever direction you say, we're going to actually add a physics upwards and throw the character up with a little bit of power, which will be a jump. So for this we want to add power to the rigid body. So start with rigid body. Let me think. Rigid body dot add force. Brackets vector 3 dot up, and then we want to times this one by our jump height, and then not by times delta time, because we're adding force this time. We don't need to do that. That's automatically done. So we want to put a bracket on the end, I mean a semicolon on the end, and save that. But before we come back over to our game, we actually need to add something in extra after the W and the bracket. So in between the last two brackets of our if statement, you just want to add double and is falling double equal, which says is falling equal to. If you did one equal, it would change it and say now it equals this, but you're checking, does it equal false? And if it does equal false and you push W, that means then you can jump. If it equals true, then you can't jump. But we still have nothing that says it equals true. So what we need to do is say is falling just under our jump equal true. So if you jump, it equals true. But if you land on something, it equals false. And you can only jump if it equals false. So if you're jumping, it equals true, and you can't jump. Do you get that? You'll see how it works. So now we save that, come back over to our game. So now if we just press play. Actually, first let's just do this. If we just come over to our camera and just drag it down to here again, and then come down to our hierarchy and drag it on top of our player, now our camera will actually follow our player. So now if we press play, now you can see it follows, but we've also got our jump. And as you can see, you can't spam jump in the air and continue to jump. And yeah, we're really starting to get somewhere. Hope you've liked this tutorial. If you have, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions or have any problems, just leave me a comment and I'll try to get back to them as soon as possible. Yeah, stay tuned and let's get this game made.